Saturday, black market beauties.
I'm calling you a white slaver.
And Hooker wants to set them free. Then,
I'm your son.
Scott becomes an unexpected father on the Love Boat. And it's round one when the wrong girl falls for Rourke on Fantasy Island.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
His paintings redefined comic book heroes. His vision inspired a generation. The Legend of Kingdom Come is the definitive documentary on Alex Ross, known as the Norman Rockwell of comics.
It almost looked like Renaissance paintings, except for superheroes.
He makes them look like Olympian gods.
We go behind the scenes of his definitive graphic novel, Kingdom Come, now on Blu-ray, packed with exclusive interviews and unseen artwork. Order today at legendofkingdomcome.com.
If you're here at Word Balloon, it's because you like comics, creators, conversation, pop culture subjects. Would you consider joining the League of Word Balloon Listeners? Patreon.com/wordballoon. For just $3 a month or more, you'll get exclusive access to the Word Balloon e-magazine, featuring transcriptions of some of my best conversations. When you subscribe, you'll also be part of the Word Balloon Book Club, where Brian Michael Bendis and I will pick a comic every month to review and discuss live with the League on this show. Join the League today, patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you always for your support, League of Word Balloon listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Happy to welcome Mark Waid. These out the droids are looking. That's what he just gave me. That pass.
Dude, I love the preempted tonight things you pick for that. And that just before we were online here, John and I were talking about Love Boat and what a creative masterpiece / train wreck that thing is. It's unbelievable. What was the one you just showed? It was
Doc's long lost son. Sure. And they're even better. Shatner on T.J. Hooker. You're a white slaver.
You're a white slaver.
Okay.
And yes, starring Morgan Fairchild. I know. Oh my God.
Exactly.
This was every Saturday night of my life when I was a child. Yep.
My man, I know we didn't have cars, so we were still watching this stuff.
To watch the wrong girl fall for Rourke.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. If people don't know already, because I put it on the Word Balloon feed, I was telling Mark, Franco and I are doing Motion Sickness, a Love Boat rewatch. That's what we call it. And we're talking about, I wanted to do Fantasy Island because Bob Denver always wanted to be a master jewel thief.
Exactly.
And, sure.
Yeah.
But yes, please. Rich Little, a lawyer who never had a big case. He has a big courtroom drama and stuff.
If I were going to pick, I would have gone for Fantasy Island because those are the, Eve Plum finds a haunted mansion. Those are just gems because there's only 10 Love Boat stories. They just put different people in them over and over. But Fantasy Island, you can go anywhere. So that the budget will allow.
The Roddy McDowell as the devil in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
Rourke, my old nemesis. It's like, really? Okay.
So hilarious. The lineup was what? Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart. Then Love Boat ABC, and you go to Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island. Yeah. And then God in the 70s. Well, at the same time, you had Bob Newhart and Carol Burnett on CBS. So
Carol Burnett at 10. Yeah, Carol Burnett at the 10 o'clock hour. Yes.
Absolutely. No, it was it was a different time.
Man, everybody who's 75 years old is enjoying the hell out of this podcast right
now. You, sir, are very busy, and I want to, because I've seen the commercials. You've got a Kickstarter going on for a new sci-fi thing that you've made.
I do.
What is this thing?
It's a lot. I got contacted a little while back from this company called Alpha Clash, who's been a very successful collectible card game / novel / audiobooks, sort of empire they built with a bunch of superhero characters of their own. And I get approached a lot of times to be a part of this or that or whatever, but I like this stuff because it gave me a chance to, they kind of gave me a free rein to get in here and do a few things that you can't really do with corporate owned superheroes. Uh, it's been fun to work on. I've been working with this writer named AJ Light, who is their in-house sort of historian slash knowledge keeper and also novelist on his own right. He's been doing some stuff with them. It's called Rising Empires. So the idea is it's a Kickstarter. We are going to do 4-issue miniseries. That is being kickstarted, but as with any Kickstarter, there's all kind of rewards and reward platforms and this and that and all signed stuff. You can bid on, or not bid. You can pay for like a phone call from Mark Waid, coming, talking to you from wherever you are. Um, there's a lot of good stuff there, but it's fun, and I'm really happy with the way it's come out. So yeah, I would encourage people to go check out Kickstarter Rising Empires
Rising Empires.
and jump in. Full. You don't have to know anything about their game. What I like about the way they've set up their little world is that yes, it is a bunch of different media that they're dealing with, but you don't have to play the game in order to understand the novel. You don't have to have listen to the audiobook to understand how the collectible end of it goes or the comics or any of that stuff. It's very siloed in that sense. So that's, you're getting a full experience if you're just reading the Kickstarter comics.
Okay, Kickstarter, Rising Empires, everybody. Hey, again, I think back of you and Barry Kitson when you did Monarch, which, had elements of what we expect from a DC or a Marvel Mark Waid story, but it was
Empire, you mean?
That's exactly what I meant, was Empire.
That's right.
Monarch, bad guy. Was your bad guy.
Man, somebody brought it up the other day and had never heard of it, and I had to explain what Empire was, and I said, my go-to line was, well, it's a world in which the bad guys won. And it took a breath first. I mean, in all seriousness, like it hit me like a gut punch for a second. Like, oh, that's not fantasy anymore. That's scary. That's, I mean,
I know we're living in this dark side Omega world, aren't we? Sadly.
Fulton County, man, you've been keeping up with that today, right?
Yeah.
And this is all I don't want to get too far into the politics end of it, but it's on my mind. It is, you raid Fulton County, claim that there's fake voting going on there. You do that in Arizona. You do that enough times, then you get declared national emergency, and there are no midterms.
Suspend the election. Yep.
That is the end game here. So we will see what happens. I want there to be midterms. I pray there will be, but I would not bet the house on it.
Yeah. Sorry, I did the 6-7 move. Exactly.
No, I know.
I don't know.
Let's talk about happier stuff, because that's just been.
Well, this is Word Balloon's meant to be an escape. That's why it started doing live video was to escape COVID. And we'll escape the house on fire that surrounds us. But already, because the big announcement was made here, Omega Arrow 94. And I figure we should talk about this right off the bat. Mark, love your work. Excited for Superman Spiderman. Cool. First question I have was, how did it come to be for you? Mm-hmm. And how did you decide on Brainiac and Doc Ock for your villains for?
That's a much better question than you know. It came to me just because I'm one of the few people who've written both characters extensively. I mean, there's a bunch of us. Joe Kelly. There's a bunch of other, but in terms of currently working at DC, having a platform there, this is the DC published end of it. Brad Meltzer's doing his Spider-Man, Superman. So they asked me. I was all excited. Jorge Jimenez is doing the art. It looks amazing. And how I got Brainiac and Doc Ock was in a blind panic, because I had written a plot and everybody approved it, and it was all awesome, and it used the same exact villains as Brad Meltzer did. I was using Lex Luthor and Norman Osborn and Carnage. And so at the 11th hour and 50th minute, right? Forget Christmas. We don't have time for Christmas this year. Let's sit down and just start from scratch. But it ended up being a much better story that way. I like what I had before, but it's we open with Doc Ock just being surly, he's working on something in his lab, and he's just talking to himself. He's bitter because he asks this AI on his phone. He asks Grok on his phone, right? Like, who does the world consider the greatest radiation specialist in the world? Well, Bruce Banner is. But no. Well, people are saying, well, who's the greatest robotics guy in the world? Surely people know this. Well, they're saying, well, Will Magnus. He's like loses his stuff, like because this is something we forget. He was well known for radiation. That was his field of study when back in the golden days, back when he first started at his .com. World-renowned authority on that, world-renowned authority on robotics, and he's cranky because no one remembers his accomplishments. They just remember what he's happy with. He's not giving up being a villain. And he's just like, the world should think better of me in terms of not that they like me, but they should have more regard for my genius. And as he's sitting there, suddenly his stuff just comes to life. His arms come to life without his prompting, and they're grabbing stuff in the lab and they're putting stuff together, and then it ends up being a Brainiac head. And Brainiac has a message for him. And there's your opening 2 pages. So
Outstanding.
So Brainiac, Doc Ock working together for a nefarious plot. Superman, Spider-Man, they know each other already. I don't want to go through the whole, oh, hey, nice to meet you, Superman. Nice to meet you, Spider-Man, because that just takes up space. And anybody can imagine, any fan can imagine what that moment is, right? Superman meeting Spider-Man for the first time, although we've seen it before. But I mean, if you were going to do it fresh for a new generation, the audience still knows what that moment is. And so never write a story that the audience can write for you. Just jump ahead to the stuff they can't, right? So Peter and Clark are working as reporters on something. And that's how they are introduced in the story. It becomes a story not just about superheroics, but about truth and about journalism and about facts and what is the difference between facts and truth? What are the responsibilities of a journalist? How do you punch Brainiac out of the sky if you're Spider-Man? All that kind of stuff. And it's a blast. We're having a good time.
Outstanding. Did you ever talk to Conway about the one he did in '76?
Yeah. I mean, I'm old enough to have been standing there on my front porch. Yeah. Waiting for my mom to come back from the grocery store, standing there like with a word, like if a little thought balloon over my head with just a picture of the comic book in it, standing there like Calvin waiting for his propeller beanie to show up in the mail. And she shows up and she bought me 3 copies and I still have them downstairs. And it was just the greatest day. Wasn't it?
Wow.
You were there. You read that stuff.
Absolutely.
Out.
Oh, come on,
Great.
man. Absolutely. When that ad came out, because it started with them crossing over for Wizard of Oz, if I remember correctly. The first
that's exactly it. Yeah.
that DC and Marvel did. And
it was an accidental crossover because neither of them knew the other was working on a Wizard of Oz project.
Oh.
So once Marvel and DC realized they were both working plowing the same field, they thought, well, let's just combine our resources. What's amazing about that Wizard of Oz job that John Buscema drew, Tony DeZuniga inked it, but John Buscema drew it, and he drew it mostly from memory.
Wow.
Remember, we didn't have VHS, this. We didn't have, had none of this stuff. So
maybe a book with stills in the book, photographs, maybe.
Yeah. And then every year at Thanksgiving, you watch it on CBS or whatever, and that's it. So John drew that thing from memory, which is amazing. Yeah. And it's a beautiful, beautiful looking book.
And of course, Andrew and Esposito on Spider-Man, Superman, which,
yeah.
I always say, Mark, and you're a good guy to talk about with this. Yeah. The guys and I were talking, Art and Franco and we were talking about how Ross Andrew is kind of the most underrated Bronze Age guy.
Totally. Yeah.
And especially with Mike inking him, Esposito inking him and stuff.
Actually, he didn't ink him on that. Dick Giordano inked him on that.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, indeed. Of course.
Okay. Which is how Neil Adams came to come by every once in a while and just draw some faces and fix stuff. But Ross was a great storyteller. His work was a little quirky. Like I remember first encountering it when he's doing some DC stuff, doing Superman and doing stuff. Carmine Infantino, who was the publisher, he was little history lesson. So 65, 66, He's their hottest artist. He's a design guru. They tap him to be editorial director, and then they tap him to be publisher. It's a 67, 68. And during this time, the books look amazing. I've recently been recollecting a bunch of 1967, 68 DC comics from that period, and the covers. There's a site called, way off on a tangent, but we'll come
I
back.
love this.
There's a
Keep
site.
going.
There's a site called Mike's Amazing Comics.
Okay.
If you go there, there's a newsstand button. There's a bunch of information there, but you hit the newsstand and it'll and tell it what month of what year you're looking at, and all the covers from that month are there. And it is just a thing. I could spend all day on that thing. But if you go back and look at DC Comics in the 67, 68 era, those covers, the Carmine was designing them all. They were just a thing of beauty.
Was Nick Hardy one of the guys doing the covers?
Nick Hardy, yes. God, his stuff was so good.
Oh my God. Just so dynamic. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's one issue of Brave and Bold that it's number 90. It is Batman and Black Canary. And if you haven't seen this story, I encourage, I don't know if it's on DC's platform or whatever, but if you can find it, it's a Batman Black Canary story drawn by Nick Hardy. It's the most beautiful job he ever did. He certainly thought so. He was absolutely right. Most beautiful job he ever did. I love finding that comic at conventions just to give to other pros and just say, this is drawn, man. All this to say, so when Carmine got the publishing seat, one of the things he was looking to do was shake up the editorial and art assignments, which is why suddenly you've got Irv Novick and Ross Andrew drawing Superman, where it was Kurt Swan and Al Plastino before then. That's why you suddenly have Bob Brown doing Batman after years and years of Irv Novick or Shelley Moldoff or whatever. And so Ross got my first experience with Ross was seeing him do Superman, and it just felt weird and quirky to me. But looking back on it, it's such a clean style. The storytelling is so good. And when he went to Marvel, he excelled. When he was doing Spider-Man, New York City looked like New York City. He would do these amazing, vast cityscapes that must have taken him forever to do in an era without digital, without a whole lot of photo reference. Just he really excelled at Spider-Man. That he left his mark on that book. And there's so many people to whom that is their Spider-Man, right?
Absolutely. No question. Now, the original story was like 50 some pages, 56 pages, something like that. Yeah. How many are you? 22? How many pages for you?
I got 24. They had 96. Good. They had 96 pages. I got 24.
Goddamn.
But
okay.
Yeah. But and we're not in tabloid format, so we can't even have the breathing room. But Jorge is kicking ass and he's making it work. He asked for it to be a little more dense than I would normally make a 24-page story with 2 giant guest stars in it. But he's just really making it sing. I love working with that guy.
Is it a good, again, without spoiling, we'll see other heroes and villains?
In this one, not so much, but it's one of those where there's a bunch of backup stories and, a bunch of other people coming in to do 2 or 4 pages or whatever. So I just want to keep this one clean. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they made the announcement. Slott's doing 1938 Superman and Spider-Man Noir, which is
I thought it was cool. Yeah.
Fun team up and stuff. And I was texting Bendis on the Marvel side, and I know he's got Miles and then Clark together. So that'll be cool.
I will also say that I thought I was done with the script and I turned it in and everybody was fine with it, Marvel and DC. And then Tom Brevoort had a note, and God damn him, it was a great note. And he was like, look, I have no skin in this game, says Tom. I'm not editing this book. I'm just, as your friend, I'm giving you this note if you want to take it, but don't feel indebted to take it. And God damn it, and I had to tear up the floorboards on the whole Act 3. What I ended up having was, in the end, Superman and Brainiac are over here, Doc Ock and Spider-Man are over here, and as Tom says, and it's so obvious in retrospect, I can see Superman fight Brainiac anytime. When do I get to see Superman fight Dr. Octopus? When do I get to see Spider-Man fight Brainiac? I'm like, God damn it. So that was just tearing up the floorboards, but it made for a much better story.
That's excellent, man. What again, what I've appreciated, and as we talk about the books that are out, it's the conversations that really make these moments special.
Yeah.
And again, without spoiling, these are two very different guys that have very different life experiences.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, putting, I mean, there really is nobody, I think, in the DC universe. They used to say Firestorm was kind of like Peter Parker in some ways, Ronnie Raymond and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I really think these are two, and then the same goes for on the Marvel side. I suppose, a guy like Captain America, as iconic as he is, and as good-hearted as he is, but they really are different. I mean, so yeah, I mean, the opportunity to do these kind of conversations.
But even still, it was my way in was the journalism angle. That was my way in, because I really was looking for an angle on this that you wouldn't normally think of. Was something about these characters that doesn't immediately come to mind in terms of their commonality. And once I realized journalism, boom, that opened up the whole story for me.
Excellent. Very cool. Lois and Mary Jane?
Sadly, no room, dude.
Fantastic. No. That's good. Honestly. And no, I appreciate, because I'm contrasting what Brad told me about what he's doing in Marvel.
Yeah.
So it is good that you've got different villains. And
it is. And I've read his script, and it's a great script. And he's got a lot. He's got the same number of pages, but he's finagled the plot where he's got more room to do a little more mixing of the universes. So curses. But I'm really happy with what we got.
Well, and I guess Tom King is gonna do a Mary Jane Lois thing in your book.
I think so. Yeah.
So that's cool. No, honestly, this is great. Also, April 15th. What date does the DC book drop?
Great question.
Fair enough.
I have to go to the head of the newsroom. I don't know. I'm getting nothing. So sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. Regardless, I think we're all excited. And God, I got to tell you, Mark, you're in the right place. I mean, I really loved when you were at Marvel as well, because you really were doing some really cool stuff with the Invisible Woman and Doctor Strange and all these other things that you did. But man, it really is amazing that both the absolute DC universe is doing as well as it is. The KO event, and we'll get into your stories. Honestly, I was expecting, and shame on me, another Countdown Arena from 15 years ago. That was just not satisfying at all. But their story, and I give Josh and everybody involved with KO credit for giving us a story with teeth beyond, wow, wouldn't it be cool if X fought Z? And let's see what happens and everything. No, I mean, I was talking about with Jeremy Adams, his Aquaman Hawkman encounter. And of course, I just read Guy Gardner and Jay and
Jay Garrick,
Flash. So I mean, no, there's interesting story opportunities here.
What I like about Scott and what I like about Josh is that they're interested in swinging for the fences, which is great. Let's, if we're going to do something that's hero versus hero, let's find a way to do it in a super high stakes way that has impact not only in the absolute universe, but in the DC universe. And I know what we've got planned for the next year and a half and stuff, and it really is all organic. It really, one thing leads to another, which is new for DC, because for so long, we just kind of lurched from event to event. And now there's a connective tissue here that keeps the momentum rolling. And I'm excited about it. Justice League is sort of carrying the torch between the end of KO and on to the next thing. And I'm stoked. I'm really stoked. It's a great place to be right now. I've never seen DC editorial and DC creative work this smoothly and mesh this smoothly before in my entire career in comics. I've never seen such cooperation. I've never seen so many people pulling in the same direction. And the results are evident.
Excellent. Lego Master tells us that March 25th is your issue of Superman Spiderman. And of course, tax day, April 15th, is when Meltzer will be doing the Marvel book. So that's cool. Well, before we get into, because we've already introduced the idea mentioning Jay Garrick and Guy Gardner facing each other, but nice to see you back on Flash for this story. It's an all-encompassing, all hands on deck of the whole Flash family
Yeah.
very much active in this really, really interesting story that revolves around the events of KO.
I could not have done it without Chris Cantwell. That was because they came to me. They said, "We want you to do Flash during this period." I'm like, "I got 6 other books at this moment, but I can't. But can you team me up with somebody?" And I loved Cantwell's work. He did Iron Man a few years ago, which is where he first got on my radar. Then I realized he did *Halt and Catch Fire*, the HBO series, and then I read his *Challengers of the Unknown* series about a year ago, which was
Yep,
just so
the
good.
best, the best. Yeah.
So he is somebody who is, you know, you know, uh, a newcomer, quote unquote, who's been around for a long time, but he's really starting to get some attention now. And so he did a lot of the heavy lifting on that book. And if there's anything you don't like, it's me. If there's anything you like, it's Chris.
Well, it turned out great, and I really appreciate. Again, there's some real dramatic stuff going on. I mean, poor Bart is being put through the ringer in a lot of really interesting ways.
And
And
to get my hands on Bart again was just a joy. Just a joy. You try to I know he's been through a lot since I handed him off years ago, and I'm trying to be mindful of that, but at the same time, try to recapture a little bit of that naivety that I associate with him. I just think he's smart but naive. I still think he thinks about things the way a 10-year-old boy does. And he's been through a lot of changes. They've done a lot with the character. So I'm trying to honor that to some degree, but I still can't get away from just the impulse of it. Just the fact that he is just, you know, leads with his chin.
well, and it's a Wally Forward story. It's a time travel story, so you can put them into. You can have Bart really be at
Yeah.
his impulse kind of
Yeah.
era and everything. And no, and also I love this Omega Legion as
Yeah,
well.
yes. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And they're an evil Legion basically screwing with the timeline, trying to prevent Barry from getting hit from the lightning. And if that happens, there goes the whole Speed Force tapestry, obviously.
Yeah. That's the art's great, the coloring's great, the writing I'm so happy with. It's a really good project, and hopefully this thing turns into an evergreen trade paperback down the road.
I think so. I think and that's what's been really interesting. I've enjoyed reading the KO books proper themselves, but it's the tie-ins, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, these stories actually matter. Again, I point to what Jeremy did, and all of a sudden, Aquaman is a water elemental in the same way that Swamp Thing is of the green, and I'm like, this is great, and really, I'm thrilled about that, and I really love a lot of these story and character choices, and also, so was it you or was it Cantwell that decided to put Guy back in the Warrior guys?
I think that was him. That was him.
Okay.
My biggest contribution was to say I want Bart to meet Max Mercury when he is young and impulsive, and has no idea who Impulse is, and Bart is looking at Max to be the level head, and Max is anything but. So that was fun.
Yeah, young Max Mercury, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, again, unfortunately, under the influence of this evil Legion, and
Not all, not till the very end. There's plenty of time
Okay.
to be here near the end. Yeah.
well, certainly, and the latest, we're at the penultimate. I hate that goddamn word. We used
Yeah.
far too much, but the second to last issue was the
Yeah.
one that just got released. And here, if I didn't already show the cover, do I have it there? I've got
You
it.
had it a second ago.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, right here. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I already showed it. Absolutely. So yeah, that's very, very cool. And then speaking of again displaced heroes, JLU, and
Yeah.
again a great idea for a story. And here they are. This group of various JL characters from different time periods. That's a Tim Drake Batman. That's an Electric Blue Superman, among others. And so tell me, Mr. Terrific has assembled this group to go after. Is it Neron? I always never know how to.
Going after Neron. There is in the middle of all this KO stuff, the villains are screwing stuff up. There's enough villains out there who are just making life difficult because that's what they do, and they don't understand the gravitas of this. And they are feeding souls to Neron in hopes that Neron will be able, the bargain being that Neron will then make sure they escape the KO chaos and Darkseid's wrath and so forth. Is that really going to happen? I don't know. Neron is a sketchy guy. But this makes things terrible for the heroes who are desperately trying to evacuate the Earth. So two-pronged attack. Some of the Justice Leaguers are up top on Earth dealing with the villains. Meanwhile, Terrific takes his time lost characters into hell, which gives me a chance with Dan Moore to do straight up horror, and everything I throw at Dan that is the creepiest thing I can think of. It comes back doubly disturbing. It's really fun.
It's a great, again, and it also gives us an opportunity to see these characters at these moments. You played with Electric Blue Superman back when you were Howard Porter, right? We're doing Justice League.
A little bit, yeah. And I
tell me about Electric Blue Superman, Mark, because honestly, I always struggled with him. I'll be honest.
Me too. What stunned me, the only reason he's in this story is because at San Diego last year, we were doing like a Justice League panel, and people were asking who's going to be in the Justice League and this, and somebody mentioned Electric Blue Superman in the crowd, and everybody went nuts. Everybody was like all excited about this, and I just couldn't believe my ears. Are you kidding me? But look, every generation has its nostalgia, right? So there's a group of people who think that Electric Superman was cool in his speed skater costume.
Yes.
So great. Let's put him in. I mean, we're going to kill these guys off as we go through hell anyway. The idea that they're themselves, but not themselves. They're sort of like an isolated moment taken from each of those lives that won't be missed. But like, you take this Guy Gardner from this moment of time, and the rest of his life goes on, but now he has sort of a temporal remnant, if you will. And so Terrific has 9 of these with him, and he's marching through hell. And with every step of the way, we're going to lose 1, we're going to lose 2 in some of the grisliest, most awful, most hellish ways imaginable as we try to march our way to Neron.
Absolutely. God, again, because they are they're plucked from their timelines at these moments. And man, poor Guy, talking to Ice, talking to Tora. Oh, we're not together anymore? All right. So
much fun. Yeah,
and it was great because Guy could really, you'd expect him maybe to blow up or whatever. And he's like, all right, I don't have time for this. I got to go. And it's like, oh, poor Guy.
And you see him fly away from Tora, and he's a little tear coming down his face. And he's just like, yeah. Because the idea, for those who haven't read it, it's that we begin with, before we go on the mission to hell, these 9 characters have an afternoon to make peace with whatever, to finish any closed business or whatever, so any unfinished business. And so we see Aquaman sort of going through his current day quarters, his older, Aquaman from the Hook Hand era, going through and seeing that everything turned out okay. Then there's his beautiful daughter, and there's this, and there's that.
Yes.
Power Girl just doing a Tom King 9-panel grid confession to herself, a message to her present day self, basically
great.
Just saying, don't be so angry all the time. Like, I understand why you're so angry. I'm angry, but it doesn't help. And I'm learning this. So everybody had their little moment of, and he's a Guy Gardner catches up with Ice because it's like, awesome, I got an afternoon, let's have a quickie. And Ice is like, we are not together anymore.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you're mentioning these other ones, because truly, exactly, Power Girl telling herself, hey, I know, believe me, I know, it's me, it's you.
Dial it back. Yeah,
don't worry, and Aquaman seeing his daughter, so he's happy and everything. Yeah, it's what a great story opportunity and character opportunity to take these characters back to those moments and be able to play like that. So that's great.
It is a constant struggle for Justice League, for action, for less so World's Finest a little bit, for some reason. I don't quite know why, but I love writing the character moments. I love, more than anything, writing these conversations, writing these deep character moments, writing these interactions. And I can find myself doing it for page after page and then realize nobody's hit anything for a while. And I know they don't always have to hit stuff, but it is comics, and you can only get away with that day in the life stuff every once in a while. Not every issue can be, 18 pages of conversation and 3 pages of action. And it is but it is a constant struggle for me to know where that line is now. Because back when you and I were reading comics, that line didn't exist. There was just, they didn't have conversations. They didn't have character moments. It was just, got to beat up Starro. But,
Yeah.
and then Marv and George, they do not, Marv Wolfman and George Perez do not get enough credit for one specific thing, for the, not just for the Titans and not for all that they gave the DC universe, but that book, New Teen Titans, was the very first comic anybody ever read that was just a day in the life. They did one issue that was just civilian stuff, just character stuff, no villains, no punching. And it sounds so commonplace now. I know if you're hearing me say this, that it was the very first time, it must sound alien to you, because to you, younger readers, this kind of trope has been around forever in comics, but they were the first ones to do that. And it gave everybody else a little permission to maybe do a little more character work in their book and not have to worry so much about somebody throwing a punch every page. And I love that stuff, but I often have to remind myself in Action Comics, after 14 pages of conversation, it is called Action Comics. Perhaps somebody should do something action-like. In a perfect world, you're moving forward and doing things in action at the same time that you're having these conversations and these character moments. But a lot of times, the real character moments just don't lend themselves to being a conversation you can have while at the same time Despero is tearing up New York.
I respect that. I mentioning action. Well, Jesus, I mean, several months ago, when you brought one of my favorite characters in the book. There he is.
Captain Comet.
Come on. But I love the narrative of action, that it is Superman today, or maybe even Superman 10 years from now, reflecting back on these early days. Yeah. And I don't know if he's doing it for John or for us or whatever, but it makes the inner monologue almost like going through his yearbook and yeah, this is the way I was in junior year. I didn't have 8th vision yet. My inclination was to punch. I grew out of that eventually. But that's the thing, man. It is really this great fresh take on a Superboy story.
Thank you.
That is very modern feeling.
Thank you.
And yet you're echoing, our greatest hits when we were kids reading this stuff. I assume right now there's an evil banker out there that's foreclosing on farms, and I'm wondering if eventually this is going to lead to the Kents having the general store, of course.
Wow. It didn't even occur to me. Damn it. That's not a bad idea.
Who's your friend? See?
That's not a bad idea. Exactly. It's, I do have Ma having a part-time job, which is, she's working at the antique and curio place in town, because that is also a great place for stories to start. What is this weird curio we found that has magic powers?
Sure.
But it also plays to trying to be realistic about the fact that, you're a farmer. You're not living in money. You're not rolling around in dough. Mom makes a big deal out of the fact Clark hasn't discovered the fact that he can make a costume out of his baby blankets that's invulnerable yet. He's just working off of whatever Ma can slap together.
Yes.
Which is why he's wearing Converse and a brown belt that you'd find at, JCPenney. And that's fun because, again, it's, Ma's giving him a hard time. Like, stop, maybe catch the bullets rather than let them bounce off your chest. We don't have any more money in the budget this month for sweatshirts.
Absolutely. No, it's
yeah.
No,
that's the life of a farmer. You don't have unlimited resources. So,
well, and also his solution, they might be facing foreclosure. Hey, here's a big gold thing that I found. Big chunk of gold. Problem solved. No, we don't do that. And it's great because, again, this is so like, what do you mean we don't do that? I can do this. I can save us. Let me save the family. No, we don't play that way, man. And it's like, all right, good life lesson. And again, that's why they're great, Jonathan and Martha. And it's also having grown up with the Silver Age reprints as we did. I always appreciated Grandma and Grandpa looking Jonathan and Martha and stuff. But I do like in the modern day that they are younger and they have that Smallville TV show vibe of a younger set of parents and stuff, but still wise. You
And
know,
that gives you a chance to have some conflict with teenager and adult, which you couldn't
yes.
have when they were grandparents. There was no conflict between anywhere in that family. And did you buy that? Did you buy that when Pa gave his speech about, you just handed us a gold nugget to get us out of this, but that is not how this works?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I
Yeah.
was
I
worried
see.
about it. I mean,
No, I did.
yeah. I
Well,
mean,
again,
because
he's
yeah,
it's
go
like
ahead.
no, he's like it's cheating or whatever. I mean, that was my
Yeah,
perception.
yeah.
Was yeah, no.
Yeah.
What? Tell me
I'm,
what. Well, tell me what you
well, I
were
mean,
thinking.
what I was thinking was, and Pa kind of articulates it, I hope it comes across, is it's not just, he says it's cheating. Clark is like, well, if I found this, on the street and I was just a normal boy, you would take it. And Pa's take is, look, we don't know. And this is why it's so much fun to tell Superboy stories, because there's still so much untrod ground for that character. He says, we don't know how long your powers are going to last. Maybe they'll last forever. Maybe they'll go away tomorrow. We don't know. So we cannot let you take shortcuts, because if you start getting someday you're going to have to be out there in the real world with a real job. And if you don't have your powers fall back on, or even if you do, you can't just go through life taking shortcuts. It's a terrible lesson to tell a kid. And it kills them to say, no, we can't use this gold nugget to pay off the farm, but principles are more important. So I think I'm glad to hear that moment landed, because I worked hard on that to sell that it made sense, rather than, I don't want readers just to go, well, that's just stupid.
This is the exploration of the man part of Superman.
Yes.
And that's the thing that I think sometimes people forget. And it's like, no, man, this is Clark Kent learned these really important life lessons. And that's why the Kents were so vital to his development. And that's why I've loved when we've seen the alternate histories of Red Sun or some of the other stories. The one that Miller did, was that Red? I guess that was Red
Yeah,
Sun.
it was Red Sun. Yeah.
But yeah, some of the others as well that we've seen, and it's like, no, this is the Kents are the steadying hand. Well, even what Johns did with Flashpoint, and the way that Superman was raised in Flashpoint, or even what Jason is currently doing. Do you tell me about? All right, so Jason is doing a very different Superman in Absolute and everything. Do you talk to him, and do you?
Yeah.
Tell me, tell me about those discussions about the character and everything.
They're really eye-opening, because he's looking to me for history, and he's looking to me from my point of view. But I love what he's doing, and I love the different takes he has on the pieces of the Superman legend. And it's stuff that emotionally sticks. I mean, it's one thing to do a 4-issue, miniseries, Elseworlds, that may be really good, but it's not going to stick to your ribs. But the way Jason is approaching this stuff, with the emotion, with the moments he has, my God, that moment when his Brainiac has a ship full of bottled cities and they're all screaming all the time. I'm like, God damn it, I wish I'd had that idea. He's so good.
Yeah.
So they're good conversations. He's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing, but there's plenty of we have conversations about, okay, what are the core elements of Superman that you can't get rid of? What are the things that you must hang on to no matter what? And it's a shorter list than you think, but it's still there.
Fair enough. Absolutely. Regarding Captain Comet, again, it's my favorite weird pre-Barry Allen, post-JSA period of whatever was going. And again, was it always National, or was there another publisher that was doing Captain Comet?
It was always National. Yeah.
Okay. And again, and I love that you put this in your new history of the DC universe. The trade is out, everybody. But this Justice Alliance, and I'm all right now. I see Congarilla. For people who are listening to the audio, I've got the still of Clark talking to Captain Comet about this. I assume that's Cliff Steele, Robot Man. No,
nope, that is Automan, Automan. He was the star of Tales of the Unexpected.
Hilarious.
That is Tiger Man below him, who was also in Tales of the Unexpected.
and then course, behind Captain Comet,
that would be Prince Rawman, who is the hero of House of Secrets near the end of that run in the 60s. These are just characters I like. And I just
Yeah.
threw them in the History of the DC universe, thinking maybe I'll get to play with these in some capacity someday because
That's
they're
what
just fun.
that's what I wondered, because again, I believe, I don't remember which I read first, if it was your volume of the history where you acknowledge them, or this action issue. But I'm like, oh, are we going to see either you or Lemire in JSA play with, this group? But I'm assuming, all right, no, you got dibs, because I get,
I got dibs.
yeah, you
I
put
got
them together,
dibs.
man.
There's
Absolutely.
there's got to be room for him in World's Finest at some point. So
Oh, that'd be great. That would be
yeah,
fantastic, man. No, that's really cool. No, I loved that whole story arc of Captain Comet
thank you.
coming and monitoring Superboy. Very consistent with what the character was doing
Yeah.
supposedly before he made himself known to the world. And
And it made, I think it made character sense. It was all right. I mean, if Kingdom Come is about an older Superman watching a bunch of young heroes going around and wrecking the world, if you're Captain Comet and you've been a superhero and you've been retired for a while, and this new kid named Superboy shows up on the block, and you got to keep an eye on him because who knows what this young kid could do. So it was an deliberate echo of that.
and you're filling in the blanks of his own story of why all of a sudden during the Silver Age we lost where Captain Comet was, and we find out he was dying, and he's got an incurable alien
Right,
disease.
which Clark helps him, hopefully, knock on wood, cope with. There's no point in doing Silver Age homage to clear up an untold story or like a loose end from 1968. I mean, that's fun for 6 people, but it is a terrible way to do comics. But if I can find these older characters and find something new to do with them that is emotional, that has gravitas, and that has some reflection in not only modern day, but actually works within the context of the book I'm writing, whether it's Justice League or Action Comics, then it's okay. I wouldn't just bring guys back just to bring them back.
I get it. Yeah,
That's just
it's cheap.
self gratification. You're not paying for that. You're paying for stories. You're not paying to watch me enjoy Automan. Yeah.
I understand that, but that's the great thing, that literally you have found this niche that can slot right in, and then he goes off to space, and then whenever he comes back in the 70s for the Secret Society of Supervillains and fighting them, okay. I mean, it's perfect. It's like it's like a bookshelf, and you're putting the book back in that gap that is there. It's like, all right, there you go. Now the shelf's complete again.
Right. And it works because if you don't know there's a gap, it doesn't matter. Like if you don't know, there's nothing worse than, like I said, that kind of sort of trying to stay away from the writer who does this for a career. And I'm trying not to mention his name, but we both know who I'm talking about, who does nothing but stories that explain something that happened in 1940. There's nothing wrong with doing those, but you have to do them in a way where the modern reader doesn't even realize that something's being plugged in. So it's a little Easter egg for somebody who's been there and knows the vast history of the character. But if they don't know, you're not missing anything. You don't have to know anything about Captain Comet to understand and enjoy the story of Action Comics.
Let me backtrack and ask you the same question I asked about Jason with Absolute Superman. How about you and Lemire talking about Absolute Flash and what he's doing there?
We had a good conversation at San Diego last year talking about that, and I like what he's doing. I like the take. I like Wally. I love Wally, and I like his Barry and his take on Barry. I just appreciate the fact that these don't feel like just another Elseworld story. They're all pulling in a direction. There's a coherence to it, to the whole Absolute line. Absolute Martian Manhunter probably being my favorite of them all. God, that guy Dennis Camp, hate him with a white hot passion. Because that, and have you read Assorted Crisis Events?
I have not. That's his regular. That's his
That is
yeah.
There are 2 books from last year to continue into this year that struck me that I am doing an Eisner campaign for straight up. Dennis is one, Assorted Crisis Events, which every issue is sort of a look at one of these comic book world-shattering crises through the point of view of an ordinary person. And every one of them is well thought out, and every one of them is clever, and every one of them is a gut punch emotionally. It's just they're all standalone stories. I hate him. This is really good stuff. Um, the other one was, by the way, you probably didn't see this either, but They Choose Violence. Did you see this?
I saw the title. I have not read it, but go on.
Oh my God, it was
Another great one. Yeah.
AWA did the book.
Oh yeah, I love what Axel's doing over there with
Axel. Yeah, Axel hit it out of the park with this one. It's basically three African American women who are just sick to death of what's going on in the world today, and they're going to take justice in their own hands. And white supremacists, look out. It is grim. It is dark. It is very realistic. It is very much of the moment. It is incredibly cathartic. So that was my pick of the year last year. I mean, that's still I think the best thing that came out in 2025. But man, Assorted Crisis Events is right there with it.
I've been trying to get Dennis to come on the show, and it's sometimes it's like homework. All right, I got to catch up. In fact, I did a massive over the weekend. Mark Waid died to catch up and everything because there's too many books, and that's the best problem to have. There are too many books.
That's a good problem to have. Yeah.
So absolutely, man. All right. Well, moving on to World's Finest, and you just wrapped up this great story. Or no, that's coming up. That's
it's coming up
in February.
Yeah.
Here's the one that just wrapped up.
Yeah.
So a nice spin on the idea of a composite Batman Superman, and then taking it one step further with the Luthor Joker combination. Fusion versus merger.
Yeah.
Hilarious. So tell me about this story. Yeah.
Here's how this comes about. We've heard legends, you and I've heard legends of editors in the 1960s that would create covers first and then try to build a story off of the cover, because that way you've got a great cover and a great image. This is not unlike that. I was at a point where I was behind on everything, and we were writing solicit copy for comics I hadn't even thought about yet. And so just as a placeholder, I threw out World's Finest 45. It's Luthor and Joker working together in a story we call The Merger. Didn't know what that meant. Had no idea. Time comes to write the story. I'm stuck with a solicit copy. And I thought, okay, we have done Fusion, and people like that character. This is the combination Superman Batman. Why don't we do a combination Lex Luthor Joker called Merger and call it that? And so I just fell backward into that. But boy, that ended up being a lot of fun. Luthor and Joker sharing a brain and arguing with each other inside one body. And it's like, God, I could write those two having a conversation all day long.
It was great seeing the exposure too of their identities and the conversation that Clark has with Lois. And again, because that's the great thing of where you've set World's Finest, that it is before they're married, and so you can these are kind of year one stories for both characters in a sense. Where is that? Where you put it? I don't know.
That really is it. Yeah, I mean, a little later than year one, but still before the marriage, before a lot of other stuff. And look, the climax to part 2 of 3 was Joker and Luthor have revealed Superman and Batman's secret identities to the whole world. Now, this is not a true life and death climax, because we all know that we're going to put this genie back in the box by the end of the story. Not just because you can't do that, but also because you certainly can't do it in a story that's set in the past. So that's not the point, right? That's not the point. The point was to drive a conversation between Lois and Clark, where it is Lois having to say to him, you kept this secret from me. I can't believe that it's one thing for him to confess and have the conversation. It's another thing for her to find out accidentally. And it led to one of my favorite moments in the book so far, which is the conversation between Superman and Lois, where he's explaining, I'm not, there's a difference between secrecy and privacy. And I am not I'm not mocking you by keeping this secret. It is the way I get through the world. It is the way I get through life every day. And I have imagined telling you this 1,000 times in ways that I know you would understand. This was not one of them. So that also covers me for when he does later on reveal his identity. She doesn't have the same reaction as she does in the story. But I think it was a good moment. I thought it was a good moment.
I agree. Absolutely. No, it was cool. And again, we will get this in February, but I've had the pleasure because DC is kind to let me look at things. And
Yeah.
we're heading to Earth 3, everybody.
That's
Dark
right.
Mirror, the next Dark in the world's finest. And we're going to look at the Ultraman, Owlman team up. And also a lot of healthy notes of Lois as Superwoman in the story as well.
Yes. And no Superman and Batman. So I really want to do just a straight up Earth 3 story. The world's awfulest villains. And it is so much fun to exercise that dark side. Because I don't know. And people seem to think all I can do is light and cheery and funny and airy. And I'm like, I'm really good at the dark stuff if you give me some room to play. And so that was a blast. It's just a really dark moments in that story and fun.
Take me from where Gardner Fox first did Earth 3 back in the 60s, and then Grant Morrison's spin I mean, he called it Earth 2, but essentially it was the crime syndicate Earth and everything.
Yeah.
So do you take, I mean, because am I right, back in the 60s, Superwoman was not Lois. It was kind of a Wonder Woman cipher, obviously.
It was, basically, yeah. And it was Grant's bit to give that identity to Lois in his Earth 2 story. And I like that a lot. And there's a specific reason why she's in the story that you will see in chapter 2 that is very important. But that I liked better than just a rando Wonder Woman clone. I thought that was more interesting. Grant did some really good stuff with that Earth 2 thing he did with Frank Whiteley. That was a really good take on refining the silliness of the idea, because of the original concept, the Gardner Fox concept was, again, these comics are for kids. And so it was a world where evil was good and good was evil. And Benedict Arnold is on the $5 bill, and Lincoln captured the slaves or whatever. And that's cute, but when you start to actually think about what your day-to-day life would be like in a civilization where it's just anarchy and there is no law at all, then I don't know how you have a parallel Earth that even remotely resembles ours. So Grant sort of refined that to this idea that it is not a world where everything that is good is evil and everything that is evil is good. It's not the mirror universe in that sense. It is more that in that world, evil always eventually triumphs. There are plenty of good people in this world, but evil always eventually triumphs. I don't know why that sounds so resonant to today, but it does. And I like that take. So this is how you get a story with Ultraman and Owlman that isn't just cute,
Arch.
oh yeah, Mother Teresa is a villain, that kind of stuff, and can actually do some stuff with it. Yeah.
You and again, I won't spoil, but I noticed a familiar villain, obviously an Earth 3 version of him that is very different, and it's, again, that's a nice glimpse, and it would be fun. I don't know where your story is going, but it'd be fun to explore perhaps some other.
Back, no, he'll be back.
There you go. So, okay, good to know. Yeah. Good to know. Very cool. That's great, man. I also wanted to mention regarding action, dude, and we've had this conversation before, but I love what you're doing with P. Ross. I mean, my God,
thanks.
He is the most selfless guy in DC history, and he's the most noblest guy, and nobody knows how great.
Nobody knows. He complete forgotten character this guy is, and he's so noble. He knows, he learns Clark's secret, but Clark doesn't realize he knows. And so the whole next issue of Action is just Pete. And it is Pete's point of view. It is Pete narration. It is Pete having to try to figure out why his best friend has kept this secret from him. And it throws him for a complete loop. He's losing sleep. He can't concentrate. He can't, every time he looks at Clark, he's like, do I like you anymore? Even are you mocking me? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then you get some sort of resolution to that as the story progresses. I think it's probably the best issue we've done so far. It's the Pete issue.
It's rich with characterization leading up to that. I haven't seen it yet. what you're describing. But
Yeah.
really, these wonderful moments of, hey man, I thought we were tight. Why,
Yes.
I feel like you're slipping away from me, man. And Pete
Yeah.
really poured his heart. And of course, Clark can't tell him, yeah, sorry,
No.
man. Guess what? These powers kicked in, and I've got
Right.
this responsibility now that goes
And it's
beyond
not-
a part-time
right.
job in the afternoon.
And it's not just because I can't tell you because I don't trust you. It is, I can't tell you because it's the biggest secret in the world. And how dare I just burden you with this secret unasked? That is the wrong thing to do. You can't just lay that on some teenager.
Yeah.
The biggest secret in the world.
Honestly, man, I'm going to talk to Bob Rozakis, the Answer Man, in a couple weeks, and I think back to those Private Life of Clark Kent stories and Superman, the in between years. But yeah, man, again, this was we got the basic image of good guy Pete, and always inadvertently just stumbling, so providing the right distraction so Clark can get away without Clark knowing what's going on and everything. But yeah, now we're really going to get inside of Pete and what it's like suddenly discovering, because in this most recent issue, everybody, it is they're out camping, and Pete's seen it for the first time. So I can only imagine how he's digesting this new information. That's great, man.
That's the joy. That is the joy to me. You take, not every Silver Age concept or Golden Age concept or Bronze Age concept is worth revisiting, but every once in a while there's one that I think is so good that it may sound if you presented it as it is, it would be corny. So what you got to do is you got to get out the shovel and you got to dig, and you got to figure out a way to make it relevant, and you got to find a way to give it not a new spin, but a new take on this idea that has some resonance to it, some real emotional resonance. That is the fun part to me, that taking these concepts that you and I love, that in the wrong hands are just nostalgia bait, or just goofy retro crap, that is just there because I feel like I want to put composite Superman in a story. And instead, don't, use that as a starting point, but dig and find some new, fresh, relevant, modern take on that concept that still honors the concept and doesn't change it very much, but gives it some depth. That's the job.
That's great. I'm loving it. And poor Lana. I also, we're getting Clark's first views of dating and wanting to be with Lana, and I love the whole idea of maybe because she's totally into him, and he's like, why is she suddenly into me? And he's like, oh, I'm giving off super pheromones.
Right.
Sure,
he doesn't know. He doesn't know. I don't know what my powers are. Do I have super pheromones? Oh my God. Yes.
No, bad news, Clark. She's into Superboy. Oh.
Yep.
Oh,
and there's big Lana stuff coming up too. There's stuff with her dad. Her dad, and we hinted at it so far. Her dad takes a lot of notes. Her dad takes a lot of notes on the town. He's kind of has an air of remove to him, like he's kind of almost coming at it like an outsider. And what's going on with this guy? And the beauty of being able to have it narrated in a Wonder Year style by modern day Superman is I'm able to presage stuff. I'm able to hint at stuff. I'm able to have Clark say, modern day Clark in his narration say something to the effect of, when we learned out what Mr. Lang was up to, it almost destroyed Lana's life.
There you go.
And that way I just throw it out there, and then you're for the next 3 months, you don't know what that means, but it gives me a chance to build up to something. So that's a good way to create suspense.
It really, it's so cool, man. Because honestly, when it was announced that you were going back to Superboy, it's like, I wonder what do you do with Superboy today? How do you make it relevant, but feel like a familiar echo? Because we're all, again, I'm just glad that his time as Superboy is back, because it is a great opportunity. John Kent is also a great opportunity to examine the young hero at this stage of his life. But really, again, it's, come on, man, we want to follow Clark's story. So
how did Superman become Superman? How did this kid with superpowers in a small farm town become the world's greatest superhero? It's a path. It's not just a matter of flipping a switch and putting on a costume.
I agree. All right, let's get into some questions if you don't mind.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful. Because again, I never know how much time you got for me.
Give me let's give it another 20, 25 minutes or so.
All right, beautiful.
Wrap up. Okay,
that's great. Infinite Entertainment. Hello, Mr. Waid. I want to thank you for 52. I know it was a cluster to make, but you all were firing on all cylinders. Really enjoying your current Superman stuff too. Yeah, man, 52. What a great combination of the four of you, Johns,
Man,
Rucka, yourself, and Grant,
Grant.
and really all of you bringing your strengths in this
It
amazing epic story.
it was amazing. There's a million reasons why that shouldn't have worked, because the four of us are so different in our way we approach the material and the way but we all had mutual respect. So we managed to make a really good band for a year. And that was the key, is that we all respected each other's talents, liked each other's work, liked each other personally. And so the lines of communication were open the whole time as we were knocking stories around. And it would be, okay, I will take the elongated man part of the story, and I will take, but oh wait, I got to go on vacation for 2 weeks. I got to go to convention overseas. So can you take it for this? Greg, can you take a run at this? Or Mark, can you hit the space stuff for a little while? It was very organic and a lot of fun. And it was 20 years ago, which is unfathomable to me.
That was exciting for me, man, because literally this is about, again, I'm only a year into Word Balloon, and I'm talking to you guys about this epic story and everything. And that's the first time you and I talked.
Yeah.
When 52 was happening. No, it really is great. And they tried so hard with Countdown and a couple other weeklies afterwards. It just wasn't the same, man. No, you can't go back. I mean, it really was the right story for that right moment. I got to hand it to everybody that was involved. It was incredible. And of course, the great Keith Giffen keeping the breakdowns going.
The glue that held everything together. He was the secret sauce. He was the guy who he did breakdowns and layouts on every single issue. So there was a consistency of storytelling, if you will, no matter how many different artists we had on it. And boy, that was the masterstroke. That's what really pulled it together. That and Steve Wacker as the editor, really made that thing sing and got that plane off the ground.
It was incredible. It was quite an achievement, guys, and I really respected all of you for doing it. Okay, Huge Knot has just a nice compliment. Says your return to DC has been spectacular. Love the 2-page pieces in all the Superman family books, where you have Professor Waid explains on characters and other lore.
That's just me just having fun. It is. Editor Paul Kaminsky said, let's do a 2-page spread unique to the Superman titles, the Superman family of books for every month. Mark, can you come up with a paragraph for every issue and every spread on some interesting and yet often overlooked part of the Superman mythos, which is the easiest thing in the world. I gave him, can you come up with 3? And I had him like 30 before the end of the day. So I did it all in one day. Like we're covered from now until the end of the decade. And it's just that's my sweet spot.
He also wants to know if you ever met E. Nelson Bridwell.
I did briefly, not for very long. Nelson was a really interesting and frankly tragic character. Nelson, for those who don't know, Nelson was the first real fan turned pro. You could make an argument that Murphy Anderson was, but I would give you Nelson as well, who in 1964 went from being a news, letter column writer in Oklahoma to being hired at DC as Mort Weisinger's assistant. He was the Superman editor at the time. So Nelson was the assistant editor under Mort. And the most knowledgeable human being I have ever met in my life. Not just about, he knew everything about comics, but he knew everything about the Bible. He knew everything about Shakespeare. He knew everything about history. He was just a walking Wikipedia. Unfortunately, through no fault of his own, he was born with a number of tics and, Tourette's sort of like behavior and, bodily, some things that just made him such an outsider, which is why he loved these fictional worlds so much, right? Because he could belong there. He could immerse himself in that. He didn't have to deal with the real world. And unfortunately, that meant that very few people took Nelson seriously. He was been the kicking, the kicking boy, the whatever of the offices, which is a shame. He was so smart and so kind, and he was very nice to me. And then I inherited his desk when I went to work at DC Comics. He had just passed away, and I took his desk.
Wow.
And on the back of the door to the office, I shared that office with a woman named Julia Saba, who was an art director there, who had shared it with Nelson. On the back of the door, there's the coat hook, and under the coat hook, there's a big shadow, like this big conical shadow that starts from the hook and all the way down the door. And I'm staring at this. I'm like, well, is this a paint problem? What is going on here? And Julia says, no. Nelson wore the same coat every day of his life, rain or shine, winter or summer, wore that same coat, hung it up on that same coat hook every day for years. And so it left this imprint of Nelson. We call it the Shroud of Nelson. It was just this imprint that it left on the back of the door. Nelson was just so underrated. And since I'm yammering about Nelson anyway, I will also take this opportunity to once more, as I think I have on this broadcast, bitch about Alan Moore and his novella, Whatever Happened to Thunderman, which happened, I guess, published last year, where it's a romaniclef on comic book publishers of the 80s and 90s, where he takes very thinly veiled characters to the woodshed and does dark and ugly things with them. And, basically it's really mean spirited, but the worst of it is saved for Nelson.
Oh.
And it's just so repulsive on two levels. One is that Nelson was the sweetest man in the world. And why does he deserve this sort of treatment from Alan to make him a mockery? And B, Nelson was so helpful to Alan when Alan was doing the Superman stuff. Nelson was there for him. Nelson was there for anything he needed to know. Nelson, and he spoke the same language when it came to that love of that material. So how dare you? How dare you? You take swipes at a lot of people in that story. Some of them deserve, some of them not. But boy, that Whatever Happened to Thunderman, fuck you, Alan.
Wow.
That just really got under my skin last year.
Interesting. I don't know if Kupperberg ever interviewed Nelson for those Direct Currents interviews.
I think he did.
Good. I got the books. I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to dig through those.
Sadly, there's very few interviews with Nelson out there. There's maybe 3 or 4, which is a shame. But very, very well-read man.
And kind of the ombudsman, wasn't he? Really, as far as
Yeah.
prior to Rosakis, being the answer man and everything, it seemed like Nelly was the guy that kind of had.
He was the go-to. Yeah, he was the go-to. He was any question you had about DC Comics, if you're on editorial staff, you just yell out to Nelson. He'll know the answer.
Okay.
So it's nice to carry that torch, frankly.
Exactly, man. Yeah. I don't know how to break it to you. Exactly. You know what you know what you are. Absolutely.
Yep.
Zach says, speaking of Superman, is this the first interview since Superman and Fantastic Four First Steps came out? If it is, as a writer well associated with both, what were Mark's thoughts on both of the movies?
It is not the first, because I do 14 podcasts a week, as everybody knows. The single most interviewed human being in all of comics. Cannot wait to hear the sound of my own voice. But yes, I love both those movies. I love the Superman movie. I thought it was bang on. That I love the stuff with the Jor-El and Lara and the message they sent. Not so much, but you know what? I love the Christopher Reeve movie more than anything else in the world. And there's stuff in that movie that I didn't love when I was a kid. So that's okay. I don't want to focus on the one thing that didn't quite sit right with me, because 99% of the movie was like a home run to me. And I love the fact that within 2 minutes, I didn't feel like I was watching a guy in a Superman costume. I felt like I was watching Superman. Fantastic Four, no notes. Like, no notes. Saw it, loved every second of it. Every choice they made was smart. Just no notes. So glad we got that. Finally, a quality Fantastic Four movie.
Don't you think too, because I really like Thunderbolts as well.
Yeah.
That because of the missteps that happened with Marvel's Phase 4 and Phase 5, and also combining that with COVID and the actors' strike, it's like, unfortunately, we just had this fallow period, and because really people are like, well, both movies underperformed. And it's like, not really, because again, we all got used to watching stuff at home. And
Right.
and it's going to be that much harder still. I mean, even with the success of Avatar and some of these other movies that, and Zootopia, I know got the billion mark as well. But yeah, it is a different movie going world than it was prior to the strike and COVID, I think.
Yeah, this armchair bullshit that we've always had about people being able to say, "Oh, well, here was the budget and here was their marketing, so they must have made this much money and it must have done well or not." Nobody knows anything. Like there's so many gears turning and so many wheels spinning behind the scenes that no one knows whether this movie made a ton of movie or underperformed or overperformed or whatever. And now worse than ever because of streaming. Maybe it didn't do as well in the theaters, but is it going to clean up in streaming and do gangbusters? Who knows? So at this point, I don't listen unless it's a complete and total unabashed bomb like the Sydney Sweeney movie, which everybody just understands is a terrible bomb. I don't really buy this whole the movie underperformed, it didn't really do well. We don't know, don't know. Did you enjoy it? That's all I care about.
Agreed. Have you had a chance to talk to Gunn at length?
At length, no. Briefly at the Superman premiere, not at length. Had a long conversation with Peter Safran about Impulse.
Good.
And by the way, nothing's going to come of that anytime soon. I'm just saying. But I tried. Trust me, I tried really hard. But when James and I have interacted, it's always been good. It's always been positive. And on I would pick up my camera and show you, but I don't want to make you dizzy with vertigo. So for Christmas this year, my fiance, who I adore beyond all reason, gave me a very special Christmas present. I opened up this picture. I couldn't make a big framed thing. I don't know what I'm looking at here. She got in touch with her contacts at Warner Brothers, got in touch with the right department to be able to take the frame of the Superman movie with my name on the sign and blow it up to giant size, and it is hanging on my wall.
Wow.
Yeah. God
Beautiful.
love you. God love you, Brandy, for that. I mean, it was so that I can look at that every single day.
Brandy's cool. I like that. That's fantastic, man.
You met Brandy. You like
I
Brandy.
did meet Brandy. Absolutely. No, we met in Connecticut. Very nice lady. Absolutely, man. I was gonna ask you how she's doing. Absolutely. We talked a little bit about her before the show.
Come for Mark, stay for Brandy. That's what.
All
right,
Mr. Waid.
I love this guy.
Yeah, Isaac has Mr. Waid is my favorite Superman writer. I loved Last Days of Lex Luthor. Yeah, that's the last time we talked. And Birthright is my all-time favorite Superman story. I would love it to be released in an absolute edition. Birthright, again, what's happening in Superboy, to me, is echoes of Birthright.
Yes. Yep. Sure is. By design, I would love to see it in absolute. I think I'm so pleased that DC keeps it in print. It's just one of those books that people don't remember didn't really do that. Back to this whole did it underperform thing. It didn't really do that well back in the day when it came out. It did okay.
Okay.
But it launched the same month as Jim Lee and Brian Azzarello's Superman. So guess where all the marketing money went, and where all the attention went. So, but it's become an evergreen. It just stays in print. It stays in print, which I'm very grateful for. I'm glad you liked Last Days of Lex Luthor, because I think it may be the best thing I've ever written, or at least so far, I think. And I wish now that it's out in trade or out in hardcover and soon trade paperback, I really hope people take a flyer on that if they're not familiar with the story, because it really is I really feel like I'm firing on all cylinders with that one.
You, Hitch, and Kevin Nolan. No, it's a great production, and it really is this ultimate story. And again, I think when we talked about it, it reminded me of the novel that Jerry Conway did, because again, you're really getting into Luthor and Superman knowing each other to the degree that they do, and that both can push the other guy's buttons. But also just the whole tour of the Superman universe. There's great stuff in there with Lori Lemaris and her husband. And I really adored that story. I thought it was excellent.
Thank you.
And that's the great thing about these black labels, that you really can go beyond, and they don't just have to be. I don't even know.
No, they don't
Yeah,
have to
yes,
be, yeah.
yes.
No,
I was
they
going to
don't
say adult, meaning again, and no disrespect to Azzarello and Bermeo, but hey, look, there's Batman's cock. Okay, fine, whatever.
exactly.
You know,
They don't all have to be that. Um, it was, yeah, it was a choice. It was, it did give us a chance to do, I think, a little more mature look at some of this stuff, but at the same time, there's no cursing in that story because you don't curse in a Superman story. It just doesn't. Even Lex, just it felt weird for him to curse, so I just kind of stayed away from that.
I wish the Star Trek people would think like that. So but that's me. Zach Goyette says he loves the Justice League Unlimited arc. Did you get to pick all the characters and specific areas they came from for the story, or was there an ask for these certain characters to be used?
Mostly, I got to pick. To some degree, I think at some point we had to have Dan Mora draw a cover in a hurry, and so he he picked some. Oh, look, it's Hook Hand Aquaman. I guess he's in the story. But let me look at the list. Yeah, I picked all those guys. I picked all
Okay.
those characters. I wanted them to be an echo of the current Justice League lineup, the big guns, so that's not just a bunch of Green Arrow wannabes. I mean, there's a Superman, there's a Batman, there is a Hawkman, there is an Aquaman. I wanted that in there, so yeah, I get to pick those, and I'm really happy with what we came up with.
We're gonna, pardon me as I yawn. We're gonna get Owlwoman's story. I
Yes.
assume because
Yes.
that surprised me, and obviously there's the Watchmen echo when we first saw her, but I guess we'll get the story in the next issue.
Yep.
Fair enough. Excellent to know. All right, back to comments. Let's see here. What do we get? Okay, NJF Spidey 616. Great to see all the Mr. Terrific love in the past year, thanks to the Superman movie. Sure.
No kidding. Didn't he walk away with a movie pretty much? I mean,
He was great. That actor was fantastic.
He was
Perfect
fantastic.
casting. Perfect
Yeah.
casting.
And I love the idea that nobody in the world knows who Mr. Terrific is. Now everybody in the world knows who Mr. Terrific is. I love the character. I love, as you know from my work, I love writing the geniuses. I love writing Mr. Fantastic. I love writing Brainiac 5. I love writing the super smart guys. And Mr. Terrific is no exception. I've got a pretty good handle on that character. And there's more to be done with him in the coming year.
Oh, excellent to hear. Omega Era says you once mentioned with the Return to Kingdom Come story, if he remembers correctly, you think Darkseid needs to be used more sparingly as an epic, nearly unstoppable threat. Do you like his current arc?
Yeah. The KO stuff, yes, because it really takes Darkseid to a level we've never seen before. My issue with Darkseid is that sometimes he shows up to fight Elongated Man, and that is a terrible use of Darkseid. What's interesting about Darkseid, and this is something we don't think we've talked about this, that here's how nostalgia works. These characters that you come up with, that are being come up with today, like whatever superheroes were created in the last year or so, they may or may not have taken off. They may or may not have gotten any attention or traction. But what will happen is 20 years from now, the readers who are reading these comics now and love these characters will come out with a new take on them, and they will become big. That is the story of Darkseid. Darkseid was the main villain of the Fourth World stuff that Jack Kirby did in the early 70s. And then with very few exceptions, nobody did anything with him for like 20 years. He popped up in Legion. I think he popped up in, a Justice League story, but again, not very often. And when he did, it wasn't great, but again, not very often. It wasn't until Cosmic Odyssey. It wasn't until Jim Starlin and Mike Mignola did that Cosmic Odyssey story, that big blockbuster 4-issue miniseries, that put Darkseid back on the map, and suddenly everyone's off to the races with Darkseid. So that's kind of how it worked. I find it interesting that we take Darkseid completely for granted, and yet for 20 years nobody cared. 20, 15 years, whatever it was.
We needed that kind of big bad, and a different big bad than Luthor or some of the others. And again, I think Cosmic Odyssey reminded us all how great Darkseid could be. Absolutely. So okay, I get here KB 410. I love that conversation between Superboy and his parents.
Mhm.
It's something Superboy can wrestle with throughout the book for a while because he couldn't learn it in a day.
That's just it. That's the fun part is like
Yes,
learning these lessons without the book being an after school special, right? That is not the book. It is not, oh, what lesson is Clark learning this issue? But that is important. These are again, this is, I keep saying the same thing over and over again, and I apologize. It is, how does this farm kid learn to become Superman? And you can't just take for granted that he puts on a costume and suddenly he's ready for the job.
we didn't mention. Also love this new relationship between him and Sam Lane,
Yes.
and I thought this was fun. This battle uniform that Superboy had in the most recent issue.
Yeah, he
But
is
yeah,
not
go
he's
ahead.
not happy about that. Yeah. But he's made a deal with Sam Lane. The deal with Sam Lane is you don't come nosing around Smallville and make everybody's life miserable trying to figure out who I am, and I will do the occasional favor for you as long as I don't have to do anybody any bodily harm. So that it seems like a fair deal, but he's not happy about it.
Uh, there you go. Well, Salsa Shaky says, or Sharky says, to no one's surprise, Mr. Wade has impeccable taste. Very nice.
It's Dennis Camp, by the way. That's his screen name.
Oh, is that really? Oh,
No,
there
no,
you
I'm
go.
just
Hey,
kidding.
Dennis.
I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding.
It happens. Sometimes
Yeah.
the other creators are watching. Um, Ryan, which DC character do you both think would work with an absolute treatment, but is yet to get it? Well, I want to know also in general,
Mhm.
if they approached you at all for any absolute ideas.
Not really, because I think it's part of my job to help keep this help steer what we've got over here in the regular DC universe.
In the all in, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I also think that I'm not sure that I would have an absolute take on some of these characters because I'm just so invested in how I've been thinking about them for 60 years. So that said, I I do have an absolute dead man thing that I would love to do if
Oh, interesting.
somebody. I don't know if anybody's doing anything with that, but I love that character. There's
Oh,
so much to be
Boston's
done with
man.
that character.
Yeah.
And there's some dead man in my future somewhere, whether it's absolute or whether it is
Wow.
somewhere in the DC universe. But what a great character for those who don't know, right? Circus aerialist killed by an assassin randomly as a test for an assassin's organization. How can you kill somebody in a circus tent and still get away? And the gods, or the god Ramakrishna, didn't let him move on to the next level of existence. His job was going to be able to stick around as a ghost and find his killer. And to do that, he was able to possess people, sleep into their bodies, be them, and move through the world that way, which is a great take. Nobody had done anything like that before. It's very common now, very quantum leapish, but that was a brand new concept in 1967. And it's a great, simple hook for a character. And I love it.
I completely agree, and told Neil Adams a million times before he passed how much I loved it. I also loved in the '80s when they reprinted the story, all of his new covers that were these
Yes.
great moments that we didn't get in the original story, and
Yeah.
especially when the spirit of Boston in his dead man outfit is looking at his dead body and he's looking up, no, and it's
Yeah.
oh, what a great story, what an epic story that was, yeah, and really disturbing. Even Carmine's first issue where he drew the original
Yeah.
origin and everything. Yeah. No, I love the design. And yeah, I'm a
It's,
massive Boston Brand fan.
it
Absolutely.
was also created by a guy named Arnold Drake, who was again one of the most underrated comics writers of that generation. Arnold was the only person at DC Comics in the 60s and early 70s who was looking at Marvel Comics, eating DC's lunch eventually, right? Like taking on and everybody at DC was like, they're old, they've been there for 30 years at DC Comics. They think these Marvel guys are just upstarts. It's going to plain little burnout. And Arnold's telling them, no, 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 you got to pay attention. And Arnold created the Doom Patrol, created Dead Man, the commonality there is these characters have character. These characters are personalities. These characters sound unlike anything else. He was a good writer. And for the first time with Doom Patrol, you're reading a DC team book where you couldn't just move all the balloons around and have anybody say anything because it didn't matter because they all sounded exactly the same. And with Deadman, that first Deadman story, there is just some brilliant dialogue in there that is just, I don't want to quote anything because I'm going to get it wrong, but boy, it's a good story.
I remember one of my first San Diego's was one of Arnold's last, and he was on his Rascal tooling around, and he had that great hat he used to wear and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it was a pleasure seeing him talk. I want to say he interviewed Garcia Lopez on a spotlight, which was really cool. That's
great.
No, I loved it. Tomb Raider wants to know what's up with the Terry McGinnis Batman. Tim died in JLU. Is Terry still out there with the Legends? People are speculating you accidentally included both Batman Beyonds and are ignoring Terry.
No. What happened was, and I said this earlier in the broadcast, but that's okay. Broadcast. I'm still using the phrase broadcast. Podcast. These characters in Justice League, time lost characters in Justice League, are taken out of time for a month. Like they're if you took this second out of my life would still continue just as it would, but that Mark Waid is over here for as long as he can live, and he's going to fade away at some point. That's the deal with these time lost characters. That gives us the latitude to be able to do something with the Tim Drake Batman Beyond rather than the Terry McGinnis or whatever.
Zero Zaku 1468.
I don't know how you do this. I don't know how you read these things with
a straight face. It's a nice chart.
It's not chart. Right.
Hey, Mark, for people who want to learn how to write comics, what should they read or what classes should they take? Ooh, you were talking to the right guy.
No, I am actually. Yeah. All right. So let's go out on this one because
sure, brother.
All right. I got to eat.
Of course. No, I understand. You're great for doing this. You know that.
You know what's for dinner? And again, I'm so proud of, I think I've invented this. I don't know that I have, but you eat peanut butter and banana sandwiches, right?
Elvis.
Right. How do you prepare them? How do you eat them? Do you like carve up the banana? Do you slice it in a little?
I slice it.
You know what I do?
You chop it up.
I use a hot dog bun.
Oh, crazy. Good. Sure.
It is the easiest banana. It's peanut butter, hot dog bun. Banana goes right in there.
Sure.
Meanwhile, you're still washing the knife. I'm eating. So that is my dinner. These are the things I want on my tombstone. Reinvented the peanut butter and banana sandwich. Got rid of continued on second page following. Invented the swimsuit issue. These are the things I want on my tombstone.
Did you invent the swimsuit issue?
I was the editor of Amazing Heroes.
God, I remember that very well. Absolutely,
right.
Of course.
That's right. Did the swimsuit issue, and then it just became a thing. So if you like,
I just talked to the Marvel guys about the winter swimsuit stuff that they did and everything. Insane, Mark.
If you like those, you're welcome. If you're offended by them, I'm very sorry. All right. So back to the question.
Right.
Right. So several books out there. But one of the ones I would recommend would be Denny O'Neil did a How to Write Comics book for DC. Really good. Denny wrote comics for 50 years. Denny knew his stuff, and Denny is a great teacher. Scott Snyder also does regular classes that I would encourage you to look up. Go to his Best Jacket website or check out his Substack or whatever and see if you can get involved with that because Scott is a really good teacher of comics. Brian Bendis did a book, Words and Pictures, good book.
And is currently teaching at Portland State as well.
Howard Chaykin and I have taken our act on the road, and we do a class on storytelling in comics that if you at the nearest convention to you, if we manage to go to the same convention, we'll always take the morning before the convention begins and do like a 4-hour intense crash course on doing that. So we will continue to do that. Keep your eyes open for that. I have also written a how to create comics book for Simon & Schuster that I started 7 years ago, and we still don't know when the hell it's going to come out. But Someday. I have to keep updating it because technology changes so much. Because it's not just writing comics, it is coloring and lettering and penciling and inking and every aspect of comics, soup to nuts. Here's how you do comics. So someday. And then beyond that, I think the very best book on writing for comics that has nothing to do with comics is a book by William Goldman. We both know who William Goldman is, the great screenwriter, did a book called Adventures in the Screen Trade. It is a classic. It is always in print. It is not about comics. It is about writing for the screen, but the storytelling lessons he gives, the way to tell stories visually, that's the backbone of this book. And that is absolutely must read material for anybody who wants to do comics. How to tell a story with very little words, tell a story visually.
Did you ever any thoughts on Robert McKee, who was certainly the flavor of the moment with story, his writing seminar and book Story?
He was. I look. I
Okay.
I respect. I respect the knowledge. I respect the class that he taught. I
Right.
think that it was so structured that there was very little wiggle room in there. It was very formulaic,
Okay.
and every once in a while, this is back in the aughts, DC would pay for young editors to go take the course.
Oh,
And every time someone took the course, I could tell on Monday when I was having a conversation with them because suddenly they would be talking about, inciting incidents. And so they would be suddenly they're talking to McKee, and I'm like, oh, you took the course, didn't you? They look, it's a good course, but by giving it to young editors who don't really know much about writing, you're breaking the prime directive. You're giving them knowledge they are not equipped to know what to do with. So, yeah, look,
interesting.
God bless him, so.
No, that's cool. Absolutely,
Anyway.
man. You're killing it, dude. Keep it up.
Thanks.
We're enjoying the Flash. We're certainly enjoying what's happening with poor Superboy in action, and very excited for next month. Actually, we're only a couple weeks away from Dark Mirror starting up in World's Finest, and this wonderful, terrific epic in JLU continues as well. And again, everybody, it's out now. The collected New History of the DC Universe, so that's cool. And we started the conversation. Mark has a Kickstarter going on. Again, the name of the stories are
Rising Empire.
Rising Empire. Everybody, go to Kickstarter, search for Rising Empire, and get behind this very new initiative with the people that Mark is working with. And Mark is doing the stories of this new superhero universe. Well done, my man. As always, my pleasure, my man. We'll see each other in a couple months, but also, as always, good luck. And also, hey, March, we're only a few weeks away from Superman Spiderman. Mark's spin on that crossover epic.
I hope you enjoy it, man. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, brother. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Michael Jan Freeman, one of my favorite Star Trek writers. He's got a new Kickstarter. Sherlock Holmes.
Great. He's great.
I'm a big fan.
He told me, he hit me with a joke 30 years ago that I think about every day. He knows Paul Reiser.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know he knows Paul Reiser. That's fantastic.
I was the most enormous Mad About You fan at the time. And I asked him once in jest, because he'd been to the set or whatever, said, did Helen Hunt say anything about me? Huh? And his answer was, I can honestly say I have never heard Helen Hunt say a single bad thing about you.
So you got that going for you. Excellent.
What a raconteur, that guy. I have missed talking to him because he can tell a story, spin a story, not on paper. I mean, yes, he can on paper, but when he's just talking, he's a true raconteur, and you can hang on every word he says. He's got the best stories.
I've been reading his stuff for several decades. I've always enjoyed his Star Trek stuff. I love his new anthologies and short stories that he's worked on. And he's doing this new Sherlock Holmes thing. Go ahead.
And he helped me buy a car once. I was in
the dealership. You buy a car?
I was in the dealership. I'm going back and forth with the guy, back and forth as you do, coming so close to that purchase price. And I see on his desk, he has one Michael Jan Friedman's Star Trek books on his desk. I said, "You want to talk to him? What are you talking about?" Then give me the phone. I call up Friedman, put this guy on the phone with Michael, who played along beautifully. The guy was bent. The guy was stunned. Hung up the phone. I got my car.
You get your price. That's great,
I got
man.
my price.
That's fantastic. That's great. Well, I look forward to whatever minefield we traipse through as we discuss Starfleet Academy.
Yes. All right. I'm signing off. Going to go eat.
Go eat your banana and peanut butter. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I'll excuse you. Take care, buddy. Mark Waid, everybody. Michael Jan Friedman tomorrow. Jim McCann Friday night. So as promised, I told you, I'm closing out Word Balloon. And look, most of my voice is back. So almost back to normal. Thanks, everyone, for being patient with the lack of voice that I had. And as always, thanks a lot for paying attention to what I do here at Word Balloon. Until next time, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.